Hi, I'm the Chunky Jeweler. I'm a South African jeweler, born and raised, currently living in New Zealand for the past 4 years, living and working in New Zealand, and decided to start this little YouTube channel. So, in this channel, we're hoping to teach you and guide you, and hopefully interact with all of you out there who's potentially wanting to learn more about jewelry and the making of it. So, why don't you do me a favor? Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. And if you like this video at the end, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, come back for the next one, it would be better. Bring the Sapphire back into it. And unfortunately I don't have any footage of the original ring. The idea only dawned on me while I was working on it, so we skipped that bit. So I will try and guide you as much as I can in the process as I'm working on the ring. So join me at the bench. Let's get cracking. So we jump into the video. We have pre-prepared a bezel. Made it out of 18 karat and cut it to size. Just tweaking it a little bit, make sure the joint is nice and flush and that the stone fits. Stone fits well, so onto the solder block. So I've used some 18 karat plate solder, melted into the little ball, and now applying it through the joint, making sure that the flow is nice all the way through. And then we proceed to, so my process is I actually made the bezel round first to get a nice even shape to it. And while doing that, you've got to anneal the metal, make it nice and soft and pliable again, so make sure the joint doesn't pop. And then I just take my parallel pliers and squeeze it nice and evenly so that the stone fits, because not all oval stones are made equal, and some of them are actually slightly fatter on the sides, a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit narrower, so you can't always use the bezel blocks to make an accurate tube. So right there, initially I made the metal quite thick, about 1.2 millimeters thick, to allow me to file a taper into the bezel after shaping it. This is me just measuring out the height of the tube, and so we can get the accurate size so that the middle of the tube section lines up with the old setting. As you can see there, now I've cut that section off, now it fits beautifully. The edge lines up, and we've got a nice little taper on the ring, on the bezel. So the next step is filing the base of the bezel nice and flat, get it nice and even. So obviously from cutting it with the saw blade, it's could be a little bit jaggedy and a little bit uneven. So there it fits quite nicely. Everything lines up. So next step is to get that bezel soldered. So I clamp it in my tweezer, and I've made this little slider to keep my tweezer in place, because with spring tweezers they occasionally get too tight, so they might end up squashing this whole setting. So I prefer this method with this tweezer. So just applying a little bit of powder flux. That's my go-to flux. I don't like using the liquid flux. That's my own personal preference. There's nothing against the liquid flux. I was just trained in the powder flux, and I've tried using the liquid flux before, but I struggle. So a little bit of fast forward action, just showing you the soldering process. Make sure the solder flows nicely all over. A little bit of extra solder. Now the cleanup process starts. It's just a case of filing away, getting everything nice and even.
It's a tedious process, but it's worthwhile getting it right. You're trying to be fancy. Using my clamp. Occasionally I use the ring clamp to hold the ring to when I'm filing, but I prefer just holding it in my hand. Gives you more maneuverability. So this tool that I'm using there was the Moore's disc. It's an awesome little tool, but you got to be careful with it. It's very unforgiving. It doesn't allow you to make a slip up, because if you do slip, it could render your job useless and you have to restart everything again. So this next shot, I do apologize. I didn't realize that it was a bit blurry and I can't go back and retake it. All I've done there is taken a little ball fraser to cut a seat into the bezel. And you can see the stone is nice and seated. And the next step is to press the metal, excess metal, over the stone. And it's a slow process, making sure that the stone stays level. And just gives you, make sure that everything is here level and true. My little hammering tool, it's not a pneumatic one, it's just the one that fits on the end of the Fordham handpiece. But like I've probably mentioned before, my workshop is still pretty old school. I don't have all the pneumatic tools, although I've worked with them before in the past. Don't mind them, but this is what I've got available to me at the moment, so this is what we're using. So we've got the stone set, or semi-set, and it's just to make sure that metal is very close to the stone. You almost want it touching. With the sapphire, you can takes a bit more of a beating because it's a harder stone, but with other stones like tanzanite and emerald, you want to leave a tiny gap. And I'll still show you in a future video how to set emerald and tanzanite carefully. So this stone is basically set. It's now time for cleanup, just straightening out the setting. In this next shot you can actually see how the ring is worn on the sides. The customer obviously wears a ring next to it, and it's been cutting into this ring. So obviously got a wedding band that she wears next to it, and it's worn away the sides. We've explained to the customer that it's actually time to remake the whole ring, but she insisted that we just repair the bezel for her, and that's what we're doing. But eventually she would have to remake that ring because it's completely worn down on the sides. So over here, in this next clip we're showing you, I want to show you how to sharpen your gravers, because my graver was a bit dull. So I've just got these 4 little emery discs on my spindle. I used to use 1, but they tend to break, and come to realize if you add 4 to it, it actually becomes fairly sturdy, and it gives you a nice little platform to sharpen your graver or drill bits. And the more you use it, you can see it's compacted there with all the previous times I've sharpened stuff. So it actually starts getting easier to use, less coarse, and you get a nice even grind, I would say, on your graver. And this is just a hard white rubber wheel that I use to give a bit of a shine to my graver's edge. Following the same process again. I'll do a separate video one day with better footage on how to sharpen your gravers and how to sharpen a drill bit. But as you can clearly see, graver is way sharper and way easier to use. or you just glide it along the metal until you get a nice even shiny edge, because that's essentially what you want. So after graving and shining it, just file the little bevel into the outside edge. Now just sanding it off, and it's off to the polishing. Let's get a nice shiny edge on that bezel. And this is my other little favorite tool, little synthetic white hairbrush, not the goat hair one. That thing is awful.
A bit of a shine on it.
This one is really nice. It gives you an excellent shine on your rings, on yellow and white gold and platinum, and it lasts forever, and it just gives you an awesome shine. Okay, so that's me finished polishing done. Just cleaning up, checking. I think there was a bit of fluff stuck in the one corner. You might see me try and pick it off. Fluff from the polishing motor, polishing buff. But yeah, doesn't look too shabby. There we go. Get that fluff out of there. We want no fluff. Obviously you can see a few scratches on the Sapphire because it's a customer's old stone. She didn't want us to repolish it. She's quite sentimental about this ring, that's why she didn't want us to remake it. It took a bit of convincing to get her to actually just change the bezel on it. But that's about the end of it, folks. Ring is all done, all sparkly, ready to go back out to the customer. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.